say it again. It's Clubhouse, so let's get into it. It's already a potential match point here for SSG. If they win it, they're going through to the upper bracket final, and their opponent will be knocked down to the lower bracket.
I'm excited. You're excited. We're all excited. It's SSG on Clubhouse. This is one of the best maps to watch in the entire world when the boys from Space are playing. Capital's going to be our first ban. Monty going to follow it up. Thatcher and Maverick both available, something we don't see, if ever.
It's been a while, to be honest, since I've seen a Montaigne ban come out on Clubhouse. Used to be something that we'd see pretty often due to the capability of his ability to push in some of the pretty hefty choke points like the garage catwalk, other areas, especially on basement attacks too. He'd be pretty useful. So getting him out is potentially going to take away from one of these team strategies if they were specifically building towards it. Valkyrie banned out once again as well. And we are also, or Valkyrie banned out for the first time, I should say, excuse me, and Maestro as well is going to be our final ban there for the defenders.
Very interesting bans coming through here, as you said. Lots of things to digest. I think the biggest thing is no wall denial, banned away, as well as nothing banned away on the offense for the entry. So we're going to be seeing Thatcher this entire time. This is somebody that we don't see ever. And for the new viewers here that are wondering why Thatcher has the highest ban rate on offense, well, let me tell you, it's exactly because of the EMP grenades that he carries. He's able to get rid of any electronic equipment, either disabling it or destroying it, depending on what it is, through walls. And it's very, very impactful, especially when you're trying to get hard destruction done on the map. Specifically for Clubhouse, the big one that we talk about is the CCTV wall. We're not going to be seeing it just yet, though, as we're headed downstairs.
Basement will be the site of choice here. Sneaky little 6-pick there from Hot and Cold as well, as they're going to bring the Echo into play over the Mira for this site. So quite a bit of utility going to be gained from that. And until they notice it, of course, it's going to be hard for the attackers to pick up. But more than likely, they will spot Hot and pretty quickly here and be very well aware of the fact that the Echo and more importantly, the Yokai drones that come with him will be in play for this round. Still having the extended defense being placed out from the basement and in a very extended position too. DarkZero will be holding not just the basement site, as you so often see teams very much turtling down here, but it seems that there's going to be plans to hold upstairs to some extent as well, based on the reinforcements that were going out onto the balcony wall just a few seconds ago.
Well, extended run here from DarkZero. This is something that we've become accustomed to on Clubhouse. You don't see it every single time, but it can definitely make a round quite easy if you're able to get these early kills. Mint as well as Hyper all the way upstairs. The clipped near Billiards. Using that Vigil, at ERC7 backpack, able to show his presence through the floor. Could help them extend this roam game upstairs, but as we know, SSG very prolific on this map. See how fast they can possibly handle this.
The DarkZero's players looking to see if they can catch anyone from SSG, looking to get early control by areas like the gym and master balcony outside here, the windows that we're currently looking at on screen, along with a few other areas. But it's not going to be there. It's going to be the jacuzzi balcony, where Thinking Nate at least will start out the entry presence for SSG. I think he'll be alone for the time being, but there are other players from his team nearby. Thinking Nate specifically is going to have to be careful rounding around the main stairs here, as if DarkZero are going to continue to play aggressively. There was a player potentially peeking from the basement on main stairs just a second ago. However, it looks like it's going to be some time before we see any of that collide.
Slow and steady for SSG as they work their way across the map. Echo making his presence known now as one of the Yokai shoots a sonic blast into one of the offensive members. SSG with a nice top clear here as we're already halfway through the round, but there is no longer any presence from DZ. It seems that all of them have escaped back to the basement safely, except for possibly one member. Nope, actually we end up having all of them down here, so DarkZero now set up for SSG's execution.
Seemed like DarkZero for the most part just wanting to waste time with that one, and because of the fact they never necessarily got themselves in an advantageous position due to the good clear from SSG, took the safer choice, as you had mentioned, out of that one, and just fell back to the site. And are going to play the usual turtle setup now, happy with the 2 minutes that they've wasted off the clock.
Yeah, very good on time there as well, picking and choosing properly as when to rotate back to site. One miss rotation right there could mean that SSG gets an early kill, but instead they were able to scamper off their garage and get down through oil pit instead of having to come face to face with the man inside of stock. With only 40 seconds remaining now, SSG needs to get these hatches open, but there's still plenty of soft destruction to be had. The Buck doing a lot of work. That's Ramping, one of his most known operators. He's skeleton keying the side of armory.
And away from that, See another yokai drone being used here by Hot, and it's going to get dropped back down through the hatch very quickly. Hyper's going to try to get aggressive on that, but he'll get punished instead by Rampy. Attempts to open up the church wall now being made, despite there being the rotate there. The 3x Kyber is going to be used for a crawl. Oh, free kill as well here for Fultz. Just walks right in and takes it. Trades are coming out very quickly, though, for DarkZero, and this may be the end of it for SSG. Just didn't have enough pressure on site itself. Bosco and thinking are all that's left here. Bosco knifes out Skies, but the time is over. DarkZero will win it out by waiting for zero timer, and they'll take a successful defense on basement.
Successful time waste there from DarkZero, able to get them out of dodge later on into the round as well, which led to the success of DZ on that round. SSG trying to capitalize a little too late. Were able to get the early entry kills that they needed to actually work their way into church, but at the end of the day, did not work out for them. The trades favored DarkZero. They set up very well inside of Armory to slow down that execution.
Six pick going to work its way out this time from Hutton. So I think for Rampy here, we're going to see a Sledge brought in over a Buck, which is a very similar change-up. And the Bandit instead of an Echo, interestingly enough, so they're going to 6-pick in the Walden.
Not a bad choice at all. Apologies, my friend.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it's just not something you always see necessarily, so could work out this time for Hutton. But they've already got the Thatcher on Thinking Aid there, so pretty much the instant counter to it, as long as, I'm assuming, of course, they know how to do the timings, which is no reason why they shouldn't know that. So,
well, moving along from that, looks to be a rudimentary setup here for DarkZero, setting up cash as well. Clips making some holes, I assume, on the opposite side of that. We'll have to see once we get over there exactly what it's set up for. But for now, hatch is popped and everything else set up for DZ, holding down logistics with rotate as well as a couple of other things. SSG now open and onto the field. We'll have to see how they handle this. Standard way is clearing from that cache side, trying to make those players rotate back to site while holding down construction for that cross. See if it's successful or not.
Still a few little last second steps that were needed for the DarkZero hold here. Just putting the finishing touches on the bathroom reinforcement. And over the next couple seconds, we are going to see the members of SSG start to approach their first targets. Rampy will knock out the hatch, leading into Logi real quick, and potentially start that pseudo-duel versus Mint, but it looks like he's going to run away from that, so we'll wait on that one until later on in the round when it's more relevant to the actual play, as SSG still have a lot more work to do before they're ready to deal with the Logi hold. They still have to work their way in over here at CCTV and Cash, deal with the hold from the Vigil, along with a few other players that may be hanging out for DarkZero nearby.
Well, plenty of soft destruction to be had for SSG with that sledge in the hands of Rampy, switching back and forth off of those two soft destructors. Have one soft panel inside of Cash that Eclipse can possibly rotate out of. That's what he has those impacts for, as well as some impact tricking if he's able to make it happen. Hard destruction now for Canadian as he's waiting for the other SSG members. See exactly how well this goes. Impact through. Can he get it? He doesn't. Oh no, this is a very bad situation for Eclipse now. Multiple angles to worry about. Pops the backpack again, but that's not going to save him if somebody ends up peeking the door.
Bolt's also on a committed hold at the moment, but Eclipse will be able to swing out towards the door. Find himself the pick. Now let's make that two, in fact, as he plays the breach too, catches Bosco. Beautiful work being played out right now by Eclipse. Still alive, still at nearly full HP here as well when you consider how much he can fight. He's been taken down by about 2 shots, so finally, Fultz will be able to isolate him and more importantly, trade him out, but the damage is already done. He's wasted 2 minutes as well in the process here. So Eclipse very much has earned his take for this round.
Huge impact on this round, as you just said, taking down Bosco and Rampy. Both very impactful operators, especially for this site in regards to the Habana. Definitely need that hard destruction, which can consist in a lot of different ways. They still have Canadian, though, which can help them with Jacuzzi Balcony. That's more than likely the next step. Is yes, we do see Troy standing outside, getting the double panel right now. There is no denial here from Hot and Cold, so that will get blown to smithereens. 35 seconds remain as SSG needs to find a place to put this diffuser, but exactly where is it going to be? Still plenty of presence here from DZ as they remove yet another member from the offensive lineup. It's only down to Canadian and Thinking Nade now, and somebody's going to have to force that diffuser. So that means 1 man against a possibility of 4, but not before Hyper kills Thinking Nade. It's all down to Canadian with only 15 seconds remaining. Hops off of Jacuzzi Balcony. Seems like they're just going to take a makeshift timeout here, talk about the round, and try and figure out these offenses.
A very short timeout, obviously, as there's not much time left on the clock to begin with here, but it's those last 15 seconds. that they can utilize instead of Canadian just throwing his life away in order to get into the third round more quickly. DarkZero with some very solid holds. That's 2 rounds in a row now. They have brought the man count so low that SSG just didn't really have the capability to try anything at the end of the round and had to let it run to timer. Obviously, the first round, it wasn't really their choice, but in the second round, it very much is, as you can see by Canadians in action there in the last 15 seconds.
Very unfortunate initial touches there from SSG, specifically on Cash. They handled the situation well, used the hard destruction to try and make Eclipse move out from Cash or peek them, but the peaks worked. That was the biggest thing, and he was able to utilize the utility of the offense against them as well. When that new line of sight was established by the Habana, actually ended up peeking through there for his second kill before rotating to the top of red, but the damage is already done. He was able to get the early kill, just wide swinging the door for Cash into CCTV before getting that second frag. So as long as that's allowed to happen, I don't see that going well for SSG, but again, that's just simply Eclipse having that good game sense and capitalizing on the situation that he's put into. SSG just not accounting for him trying to get aggressive there.
Great stuff from Eclipse, and definitely a huge portion of why that round went so well for DarkZero. It's once again a question of whether they'll be able to carry it forward, as so far this defense has been nearly flawless for them. Perfect play in the first 2 rounds. Very much a contested site that they're going to now, as they're going to go into Cash and CCTV, which is where a lot of the play happens. Most of the play on this map generally happens between here and the basement, so we can expect a lot of prep from SSG on this one, and potentially a winning strategy finally coming out if they can get past what's so far been these very solid setups from DarkZero, especially when it comes to the early round hold and their capability to, if not get kills against SSG, at a minimum, waste a good amount of time.
We'll see if DarkZero will be able to take advantage again of SSG here in these offensive rounds. Not the best showing so far, but again, this is one of SSG's best maps. DarkZero, though, obviously having quite a bit of tape on this team since SSG plays it quite often, specifically in major events or LAN events, depending on if, we're there or not. Plenty of roof presence here for SSG, but a lot of time left here. So DarkZero should just be lying in wait to see exactly what the move is going to be for this offensive squad.
Lots of time left here, of course, and DarkZero, just like the previous rounds, not going to be one to take the first aggressive stance here. They're leaving that all in SSG's court of play. Decide how exactly they want to approach the attacking side. It's very much letting them make the choices here, which is a bit dangerous depending on your overall playstyle, but so far it's been working out pretty well for DarkZero, so I don't want to critique it too much at this point in time. Balcony's going to be opened up relatively quickly at just under the 2-minute mark here. Canadian and Fultz will take up Mantle just by it here, with Canadian potentially rotating into a different position to assist with the breach elsewhere too. He's going to do a lot of the hard breach work now. Also has support from Bosco if needed as well, since he is on the Habana. So that's the first, step of the setup here for SSG. Now it's time to see what else they're going to work towards, if anything at all, before they start committing to an execute.
The possibilities are endless here for SSG and what they can possibly accomplish, especially with Thinking Nade with that extra EMP in his pocket. Could possibly get rid of some ADSs or one my discs that could instead be stealing some of their secondary utility. Only a minute and 10 seconds remaining now. Still need to try and find one of these entry kills that they so desperately need. Still a good presence from DarkZero all across this site, especially with the smoke playing towards construction.
Let's see at least one of the lifeline stun charges come out there from Fultz a second ago, but elsewhere we're going to find actual impact made by Rampy. In the meantime, he's pushing Logi. We're going to go in and isolate out Skies, which is a pretty nice find, as he would have more than likely been using these gas grenades over the next couple of seconds now that we've approached the 40-second mark. So that's another thing that, at least, on the execute here, SSG won't necessarily have to worry about getting in their way, but they still have to worry about timing, as is often the case in Siege here. SSG has often been a fan of late round executes, but this is going to start to push it when you consider how much control they actually have over the map right now and how much they still need to push for with the remaining 20 seconds.
Won't last EMP used on the wall. Impact goes out, but doesn't prevent the hard destruction. This all of a sudden gets very difficult for DarkZero, but oh, Mint. This is so huge with the ERC-7 backpack. He's not able to be seen. Finally, he turns it back on, but do they know where he is? Quick jiggle peek there from Rampy as he rips off the head of Mint, but trades go back and forth. SSG trying to find some space here. Rampy finally locking in that diffuser, but it's a 2v2 situation. Eclipse very low on HP, but it's a flank by Hyper, not accounted for by SSG, and DarkZero completes their rotation triangle.
Hyper rolling up from the back after a very long rotate and finishes things off. DarkZero continuing to shut this down. Due to, again, SSG just not, first of all, not being given a lot of fights in the early round, and when they are, it's usually a pretty safe bet for DZ. Either that or they're given an option to fall back so they can disengage and get out of there if things get too hairy. That on top of the fact that SSG are still pushing this down to a very, very low time, like 15-20 seconds before they're even thinking about trying to start the execute, is leaving them with just not enough time, it seems, to get into the site and get these kills going. You could see that there. They were trying to wait for someone on DZ to get aggressive or to make a mistake. It seemed like that's, you really shouldn't expect that to be happening here. So SSG's inaction is costing them pretty heavily in those last 15 to 20 seconds, specifically right back then on that third round.
It's a very weird thing, though, because there is a roam game from DarkZero. We saw Hyper and Eclipse both off of the actual site and running around the map, but it just seems that the timing's on their side. Actually, it was actually Mint, excuse me, that was on the Vigil the last time. But in Mint's exact situation, he just sprinted through a swamp, or excuse me, the bottom of red stairs, and he just checked the double door for bar connector, and there's no one standing there. You know, it's these little like instances where if there's someone there, they would be able to get that early kill. But again, that's being very nitpicky about that. It really does come down to timing in certain areas, and DarkZero is just on the proper side.
Well, DarkZero will thrive under those conditions, and as a result of it, complete a perfect rotation of their sites. 3 in a row for them on defense. Now going to try to make it 4 as they round back into the basement for the first repeat of sites since they started out the map. This is the first time they've had a site unlocked for play since they've started to lock them up with their victories. Obviously, SSG is out on the board here, bringing a similar flair to what we've seen in pretty much these previous rounds prior to it. It's time to see if they're going to have the winning strategy to take this one. Did a good job with dealing with the roam presence this time, just took a little bit too long to do it. And ultimately, the same issue that's plagued them the last 3 rounds stopped them once again from getting access to the site. They can speed that up a little bit this time. They can potentially leave themselves with more time on the clock to focus on the actual basement.
Well, hard destruction already done. Mintz with a very aggressive play here with the SSG-11. He's going to sprint across and test his speed up against the reaction time of thinking named. Usually doesn't miss those, as we're used to him being that concrete wall that no one can get through. But seems that, well, at least for that play, he is going to miss. SSG now, though, plenty of upstairs presence as both ends of the top floor have been destroyed and sightlines established for the staircases. The only safe possible avenue for Mint now is that construction hatch that he's standing next to.
See, it's not just going to be some players getting aggressive here. Hyper also in a position to do so. But with support from Eclipse, Eclipse will now be safe to pull back to the site. Same could be said for Hyper, too. Already under 2 minutes here. Not feeling the need to waste a whole lot more time. It's more than likely DarkZero believes what they have on site might be able to do that for them. Mint, in the meanwhile, stays upstairs, does get himself one, catching Rampy, but Bosco, thankfully, is in a great position by pool table to quickly trade that out when he falls back through the second floor hatch onto stage.
This is a huge impact on the round for Mint. Hell of a kill, and to pick off anyone on this team, it definitely needed to be Rampy. Getting rid of that skeleton key means that you can play Armory a hell of a lot safer because he won't be able to destroy the wall through the kitchen floor. Not nearly as much soft destruction available for SSG now. But that means that they're going to have to deal with this in a different way. Is it going to be a church execute now? What exactly are they going to adjust? This is where Canadian is known for having these bright ideas. Moto hatch now destroyed, but not too much kitchen presence besides some soft destruction.
See the members of DarkZero looking for counterplay to this one. They hear the X-Kairos going off. We are going to see the impact thrown out. Unfortunately, he's not going to get a lot of feedback on that since they weren't actually being executed at that point, so he doesn't hear the stoppage of the noise. But thankfully, that is used a second later, and he's going to get that audio cue this time. Can't stop the third one, though, as he is now out of impact, so the hatch will eventually get breached.
With the hatch open now, they need to find their way through Armory, as that seems to be the execute here, as we have one of the SSG members poised at the bottom of main stairs to cut off the rotate from Church into Armory. It's going to be up to Eclipse as well as Hot and Cold to lock this down. Nitro still out. Bosco actually gets a very big plant, or a kill here, excuse me, as Canadian starts planting inside of Dark Spot. The cross being held so damn well by Thinking Nade. Oh my, what an impact there, as it's all left up to the last remaining member being Skies, but not even he can get through this SSG lineup. What an adjustment from them, and a nice plant attempt as well.
or at least some success picked up from SSG, and this is what they wanted to accomplish in the previous 3 rounds. Yes, it's very close to the wire. Yes, it runs the timer down low, but if they have the positioning to, first of all, guarantee that plant, along with punish any of the rotates that come off of the info, which they had spent the previous 2 to 3 minutes gaining, then they're still in a good position to close that one out. It was just they never got into that position over the previous 3 rounds before that one. So it's only just now worked, and they're finally on the board at a 3-1 scoreline, which might cause some worry here for DZ, though. They're not going to reattempt the same site. Instead, they're going to shift directly over to Gym Bedroom, just keep their rotation going as they enter the last 2 rounds of their own defense.
That last round coming down to the absolute wire, and really it was just a slight misstep from DarkZero that snowballed out of control. They just tried to get rid of the members of SSG dropping from the hatch too early, and it ended up costing Eclipse his life, as well as burning a nitro cell that didn't need to be used yet. They waited for all of that utility and that entry kill to happen before going for that plant. Very smart play there from SSG to just lean on the timer. Even on an offensive front, sometimes it's not bad, especially in that kind of situation where you're going to get those kills off of the defensive members moving just a touch too quickly.
Yeah, if it was the nitro cell from Eclipse that we saw going off there,
It was I think it's Houghton that
what
played Mira. Yeah.
Houghton, yeah, sorry. So Houghton's nitro, which might not, if that was thrown like 2 seconds later, it's very possible DZ win the round, because that might have killed Canadian, and then they don't have an easy player to get back down there and try to go for the plant, nor do they really have the time for it either. So that could have been a very different turn of events to that nitro cell going out just a second or 2 later.
Yeah, it's just very poor for them when it comes down to that, doing it all off of audio cues, no visual there to tell you when somebody drops, and just got called a touch too early. So we'll see if they're able to pick up the pieces here in round 5. They've already had quite a few successful rounds, especially with Eclipse playing in cash on the previous GM defense.
And he's going to be able to find that capability to do it yet again here. Also taking out some of the floorboards, just in case somebody tries to sneak something out from beneath him. He can hopefully get the better edge of that one before they try to send it on to him here.
Okay, I'm going to be really honest. I know quite a bit about Siege. I have no idea why he's doing this.
Actually, yeah, there's no. I just realized there is no soft.
No, he's shooting it through. I don't know if it's for his backpack to make it seem like he's on a separate floor, because like even that little, centimeters.
Maybe it lets him hear below him easier or something like that. Like
apparently that allows you to impact the other side of the wall. Okay. All right. Well, cool. Learn something new every day. There you go.
Thanks to our observer for that info.
Thank you, Cyan. Much appreciated. You're also kicking some butt in the Spectation department, especially as you got that kill onto Fultz. So, early presence here from Hyper begs them one. Still have to worry about this cache setup, though, and this is something that was very troublesome the last time, but this time they're going to go about it in a much different way. They have Rampy set up here as well to sledge his way through the back end, and there's the impact, so that's exactly how that one works. X-Kairos go off on the back end near the top of red stairs as well, so Eclipse going to be stuck on the cache table here for the time being. But that's going to be quickly dealt with as Rampy sends a grenade through the wall, cleans up Eclipse.
Good way to trick indeed, but not going to work out well except for the 1-for-1 exchange. Brings us into a 4 versus 4 scenario, with SSG having full control over the construction side of the building, along with cash and CCTV, of course. Thinking Nate now going to rotate to the gym window, get himself in position here. At the moment, just putting on a Claymore is more than likely going to pop out the window here too, just to invite anyone that wants to go for a peek, and maybe a hop, which would obviously play out into his favor pretty well. And he nearly got it too. Hyper contemplating it for a moment, but if he was smart, he more than likely heard the Claymore go down and is not going to directly challenge that.
Alt cross set up to hold down Jacuzzi walls, so that will be confirmed as we hear that explosion. Still a lot of DarkZero members here. Hyper on the forefront, though, as he's now been droned out. Decides to drop the hatch down to bar, so only the last 3 members, the 3 remaining members of DarkZero on site. Still have Skies inside of the bathroom, playing well with his toxic babes, but now the back end of the bathroom is going to be open. Nice move from him as he's getting very aggressive. He's going to try to hop outside. No, he's not even going to get the chance. Is this going to be a trade back and forth between these two? On every front, there's a war, but DarkZero wins it on all fronts. Oh my God, round 5 falls right into their open hands.
A crazy way for the round to end. There 3 separate 1v1s going off at once, it looked like there, but ultimately DarkZero wins all 3 of them, taking a very big victory, and still with massive control over the lead right now on Clubhouse at 4-1, which is a huge change of events from what we had back on the first map over on Consulate.
Well, if we end up splitting 4-2 here, I don't think that that's the worst thing in the world. The harsh thing right now for SSG is that they have access to all of the utility that you need to get walls open and such, and they're still not finding these rounds very easily. Granted, DarkZero has some very nice setups, and it's been a very difficult path for SSG to try and work themselves through this. We are going to have a 6 pick here as well from DarkZero, shifting away from the dock and picking up Legion.
Yeah, the 4-2 is definitely going to be workable at a minimum for SSG once they jump onto defense. But, you know, when you consider the utility benefit, along with just the general dominance that it looked like we were having from SSG coming off the previous map, that it was going to carry forward here, but did not end up being the case. DarkZero, again, credit to them. They've done a fantastic job of turning this back around and making sure that, you know, despite what still could be a workable half here for SSG, making sure that they maintain a great position going into that second half.
Well, we're back downstairs into the basement. This is the only round that SSG won, and that was inside of round 4, where they got that plant off after a very early chance to deny the execute there. I was trying to exactly think of how to set that one up there, because it's not an execute from the defense, so it's more of denial of entry, denial of, you know, it's just, they just DDoS the offense. It's denial of service. You're not allowed inside, you can't do anything that you really want. So that, you know, but overall, good round from them. For SSG, now that we're jumping on to the last round here on offense, going back into this one, they have to worry about that roam game from DZ and try and handle it in a quicker manner. But that's a difficult thing, as DarkZero's been so good at working this timer.
So good and so unfortunate for SSG, as it's been frustrating for them to have to constantly be playing against the clock, and more than likely constantly being behind on their kind of schedule of events for the round itself, due to the fact that the roam presence from DarkZero has been so successful. We're going to see different shades of it this time, though. We do have the usual players out and about, but we've also got some additional additions to it as well. Not to use the same word twice in the same sentence, but Mint going to be coming in here with the Legion. Not an operator we see too often anymore due to a recent nerf that he suffered a few months back. He unfortunately is not anywhere near the usefulness, at least when it comes to a utility perspective, that he was back then, so he's a much rarer pick. Still useful in specific situations, though, and it seems for DarkZero this is chosen to be one of them.
He is one of those operators that is the epitome of a minor inconvenience. He gets quite a few goo mines. They're actually invisible, and if you step on them, they prevent you from sprinting. You take damage over time, and you also have to go through an animation to get back all of, you know, your utility as well, at least your sprinting ability also, and such. What's up?
Another important note, too, for late round stuff is if you have one of those in your leg and you have the diffuser, you can't plant.
That is the biggest thing. And we've also seen it catch quite a few people off guard in those late round executions where you end up getting a goo mine stuck in your leg at 5 seconds. You have to go through that animation, and you're not able to get the diffuser body on the ground in time before that timer hits 0.
And that may be one of the big reasons they're using it, because SSG is entering into sites so late. If they catch the guy with the diffuser with one of those at like 5 seconds, it's pretty much impossible for him to even plant the diffuser at that point. So in certain situations, the Legion mines can turn into an instant win if you position them correctly.
The terrible thing is you can't even drop the diffuser there. You have to take the prick out of your foot, and that's it. You have to. If you don't take the needle out, then you're not going to be able to do literally anything. And we'll see how well that'll possibly work out as we're getting down to the last 35 seconds here. Still a lot of drone game here from SSG. Quite a bit of ways from the actual site, but you can transition quite quickly throughout Clubhouse. It's quite a congested match. Or map, excuse me, but Sky is now getting caught off guard from Thinking Nade on main stairs. Some nice shots here as DarkZero continues to swing around this entire basement as trades go back and forth. 3v3 situation now as the diffuser's in Bosco's hand. He wants to try and plant this inside of Church, but a nice pre-fire from Hyper and Eclipse with the crossfire, as well as Hot and Cold, able to pull off round 6, and that's a 5-1 split in favor of DZ.
Some really chaotic rounds happening throughout this series, with that last one definitely being included amongst them. Map control, especially in the site in those last few seconds during that engagement, was all over the place. We had multiple teams in multiple different rooms trying to outwit each other, but ultimately DarkZero ended up with the far superior angles to try and play that out, and more importantly, shut down the final attack from SSG. That's going to give them an incredible lead at 5-1 coming off their defensive half. The big thing, though, is can they carry it forward onto the attack and claim these final 2 rounds that are needed to send this to a map 3 on Cafe.
Is there going to be a 6 pick? I'm just waiting. Nope. we're not going to have one. So it is going to be the SSG roam, folks. That's
Nope,
what we're going to be seeing. Well, at least from the defensive side, right? You know, we are going to have the Thermite come out instead of the Maverick, which is probably smart. Obviously, Thatcher's on the board. It makes it a lot easier to be able to get access to these things, especially when you're attacking the basement. There's not going to be too much that's going to stop you from getting the hatches when you do have access to those EMPs. Mainly because really the only denier you're going to have is either Impacts or Kaid, and Kaid is really easy to get around. When it comes to the Impact game, that's a whole different story, as it's very difficult to prevent that. Besides just killing the person that's trying to toss them at you.
Castle also coming into the fold here for Fultz as well, which can try to force rotations in certain directions and more importantly leave certain areas of the map, like you're going to see bar to a certain extent here. That'll leave them secured for the defenders if roamers or whatever need to fall back using those hatches. So I don't know if they're setting up for upstairs holds or not, and if they're going to do the extended roam. Looks like they are, so that's an area where you'll see those barricades helping out if they're not going to be dealt with very early on in the round by a Hyper or another member who has access to soft destruction utility that can deal with that.
Well, this strat has existed for a long time and has been adopted by quite a few teams, so this is definitely something that DarkZero has seen before, but that doesn't mean that it can't be as effective. Let's see how well DarkZero can possibly handle this when they know what they're walking into.
Thinking, of course, still a few little shots to make just to make sure he has intel coming in from all directions, and more importantly, that maneuverability is going to be a top notch at all times. Like that, he has already lost the Logi hatch, so a lot of attention is going to need to be given to that. We'll very quickly take out the jacuzzi balcony wall as well to immediately put some of the pressure onto Thinking Nate. In fact, it's too much for him to try and hold over in Master and Logi area. He has to fall back all the way over to Cash now, it seems, and it's retreating even further back to the inside of CCTV since they don't have the cash room set up for a hold like this. They have to be very careful with how they play it. Playing it from the inside of both security and it looks like the red top area as well. Eclipse will still be able to strike first here as he catches Rampy out, eliminating him and taking out the Mozzie for the rest of the round.
You have two options playing into this. It's either clear out the roamers or try and get control of dirt and blue while trying to stop them from rotating to catch you. It seems that they want to go for the clear here as Canadian as well as the mute of Thinking Nade skimper on down Secret and into blue. They're both safe in sight now and can play out the rest of the round, but they did lose one compadre. Rampy's dead and he doesn't seem to be coming back anytime soon.
Oh, good attempt to play there from Fultz. Trying to make it look like he went for the inside rush, but not going to work out. Skies reads into that. Gets the better exchange of it. Second kill now going into the hands of DarkZero. They bring it down to a 5v3 on top of that little bit of damage they also did to Canadian here too. Canadian still going to try and play his best throughout the round though. But beside that, DarkZero has got pretty much full map control of the top two floors. Just needs to move this into the basement now and start working towards the execute. But that can oftentimes be the hardest part. So you don't want to count SSG out of this round just yet. The DarkZero are certainly in a great position to follow this through and take it.
This is going to be so very difficult for them. DarkZero now running into the same problems that SSG faced. Might have a nice kill here from the Legion, but Bosco not able to thread the needle. Finally, a kill happens on site. Bosco taken down as he tries to rotate towards dummies. 20 seconds remain here for DarkZero as they really need to get this plant down. Canadian rotating towards main, trying to make sure that the cross can't be held. Thinking Nade having some success, but oh no! Caught off guard with an impact in his hand, and the diffuser will be secured from DarkZero into the post plant now as Thinking Nade is forced to try and retake. But it's not even going to matter. Skies with yet another kill inside of round 7 pushes DarkZero to map point.
Thinking Nate, unfortunately, is getting the short end of the stick throughout that entire round. Fails to do anything on his aggressive roam upstairs due to the fact that he is laser focused on the clear so quickly and chooses safety over trying to take a fight. Falls back, tries to play into blue, and unfortunately, he becomes the last man standing in blue as his opponents clear out everything else in the basement except his position, leaving him in that very unfortunate 1vx scenario. DZ, man, a really convincing performance here on map number 2 when compared to map number 1. Great defensive half, obviously we talked about that, but the rate at which they both cleared out the roam game from SSG and consecutively took basement control over the next minute or so was really, really nice, and it's looking almost like a different level of performance compared to what we saw from the first map. This is potentially going to be dangerous for SSG if this does end up going to a third map, which is pretty much all but inevitable at this point.
Yeah, just too many early kills, or excuse me, early deaths there from SSG that played into that round, and even then it still seemed quite winnable for SSG, but only if Troy was able to get that kill at the bottom of main. Unluckily enough, he had his impact in his hand and was not able to have his gun up to take that gunfight, so DarkZero wins it out after a lot of those very impactful kills once again. But now rounding into CCTV, let's see how SSG can handle this. We are going to have Rampy on the Vigil. We saw him 6-pick away from Legion. Not the worst thing in the world, especially since, well, usually we see that clear downstairs inside of the lounge area. Rampy could possibly assist with that, or maybe possibly a late rotation. We'll have to see how they want to handle this.
All right, guys. Well, SSG ready to defend upstairs here, and DarkZero very much ready to attack, and more importantly, potentially end this map, since they have themselves up on match point right now. It is only map point for the series. We should note as SSG has the overall series advantage at 1-0 coming off the Consulate win. But the reversed map wins is very much still a possibility, along with the weakening win ratio that it would be for SSG. This would be the second time that they've lost this map so far this season in what previously was an untarnished record for something like 11, somewhere between like 8 and 11
It was 11
months,
I believe.
Yeah, 11 months.
I'm sure we can get big brain on it. Don't worry about it.
I don't know why. I can never remember the exact number, and I've asked this question like 3 different times on broadcast now.
It happens, it happens. But impact now as the soft destruction's done for CCTV. DarkZero already set up early on here, but that's not the only thing that you need to check off the list in order to attack CCTV. There's also Garage and a bunch of other stuff to worry about, specifically the utility of this defense. They need to know exactly where this Vigil is. Rampy playing bikes in the bottom of Garage right now. Has to be worried about exactly what's going on with this Maverick, but he also could get a free kill here. This is an area where the Maverick is very susceptible to death when he's torching the bottom of that wall. He either has to go prone or stand near it, and if you prone at the proper angle, you're able to kill him. Usually you have to play somebody in tandem to prevent that from happening, or at least get the trade.
Rampy trying so hard to fight to stay in Garage here. He knows the pressure is against him too from both the doorway and the breach. Can't directly contest, but he does see someone's foot here, so he's going to sneak off some shots onto Eclipse, bringing him down to a little under 50.
Very nice shots from him to be able to see the feetsies underneath the white van. Still existing on yellow stairs, though. This Bosco still upstairs inside of rafters. Great hold here from SSG. Rampy having a large impact downstairs. Continues to hold things. What a round from him so far. He'll rotate through the basement to try and find greener pasture on the other side of the map.
Still a decent amount of utility that DarkZero are going to have to deal with if they go for the Garage there too. There's still a Yokai drone in the middle, 2 in fact placed there. One's going to get dropped, it looks like, though, as that one's actually on the inside of CCTV, but thankfully for DarkZero, they noticed that Yokai drone sitting on the pipes in the middle of Garage, so they've lost that utility. Thankfully, the Wamai disc will eat up that frag grenade. You can see the Wamai was contemplating moving out of position. That would have nearly killed him if he had done it, but he's going to keep himself in a good spot. And actually, DC gave up on this. They're pulling pretty much all their players out of here, and instead are going to focus the push on the breach. Canadian with the most recent pick takes out Eclipse, and they're just going to fall down like dominoes at this point. DZ, unfortunately, unable to get that Garage access, and that seems like it's going to be the end of the round for them, as Hyper is the last to fall to Bosco.
This looks a lot more like SSG on Clubhouse than that offense did. It seems that they might have woken up, but I don't want to call it too early here. Overall, a really good round from them on CCTV. Not too much presence there from DarkZero. It just seems that they were not really allowed to do what they wanted to do, specifically inside of Garage, where Rampy truly put a wrench inside of everything they were trying to do with that machine, then rotating over to Lounge and able to get that very impactful kill, continuing his presence on that side of the map as he held things down inside of Secret. But we're going to transition back downstairs now to see if DarkZero can possibly win this out. SSG has to continue to string these perfect rounds together, otherwise we're headed to a map 3.
Yep, we are going to see the roam game more than likely be a pretty heavy component going into this round as well, since SSG once again brings the setup in order to play into that. And thankfully for the DarkZero fans out there, we've already seen them deal with this setup, or this type of setup, at least once. So as long as they can repeat those steps and fulfill it the exact same way, and more importantly, SSG also plays into it the same, we could still be looking at a quick 7-2 victory here for DarkZero on SSG's map pick. It's all up to how SSG is going to choose to play this, though. And they are the ones deciding if they're going to try and follow through the same way or if things are going to be a little bit different this time. And it looks like things will vary slightly. Got a bit more of a reinforcement emphasis coming out onto the balconies. That also follows through from the previous attempt here, though. No additional reinforcements going to the inside of Cash Room, so they're not going to be able to bunker down there. That was where they got forced out last time and had to play that kind of awkward angles on the inside of Security and Red Room. But they were able to try and delay a little bit from there. Ultimately, though, DarkZero cleared it out very quickly.
Agreed. And I think walking into this round that could possibly be our last once again is DarkZero utilizes their cutoff so very well on this map. They establish them early on Jacuzzi as well as CCTV to try and stop any of the SSG members from leaving the upstairs area. We'll see if they are as successful as they were the last time. Thinking they'd abandoned Logi and Master quite early on and tried to rotate back towards Cash, where DarkZero was able to take map control and finally barrel down onto site. Will they stick around longer this time? That's the big question. You can already see they've adjusted one of their reinforcements to the single panel inside of construction, as the last time the Buck was able to rip that to pieces and establish early presence.
A little bit of bullet hole work being done in advance this time here by SSG, where they only had the rotate set up the last attempt to hold this. Kind of expecting the same general approach to the attack here from DarkZero. And they're more than likely going to be right about that, judging for the silhouettes right now. It looks like DarkZero is taking pretty much the exact same clear path, so this could play out for SSG, assuming that they are lined up appropriately to stop it on their own. Hyper is finished with clearing out the first floor, though. He has opened up the angle to punish players if they fall back through the hatch, but is not going to stick around to do exactly that. Mint is also going to rotate away, and I think SSG are aware of this fact. They're pulling back their roamers as well. They know that they've wasted a lot of time, and more than likely DarkZero are going to move away from trying to deal with this and start to focus more on the actual site take.
It feels like the more things that are different, the more they stay the same. It seems like a mirror from what we've been seeing this entire time for all of the Roan games. Spend some time upstairs, get it down to about a minute 15, minute 20, and then drop down Oil Pit. And that's exactly what SSG is going to do, is they're able to rotate all of their members this time safely downstairs. Remember the last time that we were here, they ended up losing 3 members on the top and mid floors.
SSG still setting up to put what would normally be Thinking Nade behind the big blue box on the inside of the namesake of that room itself. He's going to rotate out, though, after these flashbangs are thrown in by Houghton. Expecting something to follow that up, but it's not going to be the case, at least not right now. Mint does need some support here in order to group up with the rest of his team on the outside of blue, so hopefully they're going to be able to get him access to that and prevent a very awkward rotate, which will eat up more time. Looks like hopefully that's not going to have to happen. And now DarkZero are facing the same issue which plagued SSG on the previous half, is trying to execute with minimal intel, minimal time to figure out the exact nature of the setup, and even more unfortunately without a man advantage to play into. A whiff shot here, though, is going to open up a capability for play for Houghton initially, but he's going to get quickly traded out. A 2-for-2 exchange to start things out, but it quickly goes into the favor of SSG as Rampy knifes out Mint to finish him off. Skies and Hyper are all that's left. They're trying to pinch from blue and dirt, but it's just not going to work. SSG closes out. They are not giving this map up that easily. They're going to fight back.
Very hotly contested there, all down to the wire, but SSG comes out on top. Still at map point for DarkZero on this offensive front, and as you guys heard during the analyst desk, this is a map that they are very prolific at on offense. 83% success rate on those offenses, at least prior to this matchup. Seems that SSG is definitely putting a dentage, or at least a dent in that percentage now. Same lineup for the most part that we saw from the last time. We'll see if Houghton clicks off of this Maverick once again with a 6th pick as we're headed towards Gym Bedroom. We're going to have very similar operator lineup to what we were seeing from DarkZero, but knowing SSG, they're probably going to have something just a little different.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs.
SSG is trying to run the gauntlet to get themselves back into this matchup. 3 more rounds are still needed in order to accomplish that, so I doubt that DZ are sweating about this comeback potential just as of yet. They win 1 or 2 more rounds, though. We'll come back to that topic, and it might be a different story, but at the moment, DarkZero not too worried, especially now that we are going over to a Gym and Master defense. This is where SSG has a lot of potential to falter. There's a lot more holes that the attack can potentially poke through, finding those early picks, as well as the capability to clear things out a lot more quickly and focus on that main execute, which became a problem for SSG in the previous round.
Well, moving away from that, it seems as though we are going to have a mirror brought by SSG. This is something that we never saw DarkZero bring So we'll see exactly where they're going to be using those mirrors. Mirrors are one way and give you a lot of intel, and that's something that we don't see happen too often, as Mira is one of those operators that is banned out a lot because of how much of an impact she can have at holding down those defensive sites. Looks like the first one is going to go down inside of the bathroom. We could see the other one placed later on, possibly, if they need to reinforce the rotate once Jacuzzi's open, but we'll have to see exactly what they want to utilize it for.
Time begins to tick in the favor of SSG, and DarkZero start to approach the attack to start working things the other way. Hyper actually almost with some good timing there against Fultz, but I think he misses it by just a second or two. He got those shots off at the right time. We could have been a dead Fultz and a very happy DarkZero to work with an opening play here. Interesting mirror reinforcement, or mirror window, excuse me, going to go down here. Gives Thinking Nade some swing potential, though, if he wants to try and play out from that mirror.
Very interesting indeed, playing inside of the secret stash of cash over there in the corner of logistics. Still plenty of time on the board for DarkZero to get something done here. Houghton already almost out of his torch utility. He only has one tank left. Already have the wall soft, just waiting on some soft destruction. That's exactly what Eclipse is for with this skeleton key. Rips it to pieces with that, and now they're in business. Need to get the drones inside and see exactly where these SSG members are hiding. Bolt's Thinking Nade and Bosco assigned towards these two sites as Canadian and Rampy on the extended hold towards the east, but Canadian slowly working himself back. Rampy going to stick around downstairs for possibly a late flank.
Let's see, Bosco just waiting for the opportunity to try and pick something up here too. There's no pressure is really coming in as of yet here. DarkZero keeping it very quiet except for the skeleton key that's trying to hunt out pieces of utility along with that mirror window right there too. Nicely found, nicely spotted, as that's going to hopefully eliminate that and open up a bit more play potential to work into DarkZero's favor as they finally commit to this push with a little under 1 minute left. Most importantly, it opens up the wayside for that nade to get chucked in, hopefully forcing out anyone that would have been on the inside deeper into the site, and overall clustering the SSG players closer together where DarkZero could try to cleave them down to get closer and closer to the zero timer here. A swing attempt initially looked good for DZ, but he didn't commit to it with an ADS as a result of that. On the repeat, the trade comes in. Houghton's going to be able to strike back in the favor of DZ, even shoots the nitro cell out of midair as he's going to continue to push to the inside of the bathroom. Mint's going to join him in a moment here. Now they're stalled. Now they don't have the capability to get on site and find that plant just yet. And the members of SSG still have the capability to deny if they try to go for a close plant on the corner here. You're going to see this over the next moment. There's the spam coming in. It's going to drop the player, drop the diffuser, and drop the round. More importantly, over to SSG as they continue to round this comeback.
Oh no, DarkZero starting to spiral. Either that or SSG waking up in a serious fashion. Something that we said after round 8, where we saw them pick up their first defensive win. Getting that second round that they desperately needed to stoke a fire underneath all of these members. Now SSG headed towards CCTV to try and continue this win streak. They still need to find 2 rounds to force us into overtime. DarkZero doing a bang-up job of utilizing their utility and getting these walls open, but when it comes to the actual execute, that's where things are getting botched. SSG just playing so damn well right now, able to shut down every front from DarkZero's offense.
Still need to see those 2 more rounds though, and that's just to get it to OT. So this would be a gargantuan comeback from SSG if they go the full distance with it. DarkZero still a single round away from ending this map, and they have 2 more opportunities to do so between this one and the next one before SSG potentially triggers OT and those extra 3 rounds that come with it. Going to be upstairs hold this time once again as SSG start to round back over towards that. And this means that we're going to see that very heavy emphasis on the garage hold. The operator setup is the same. Now, if DarkZero are smart, they'll look for other ways to get control and get to the site besides garages. That was just too much to deal with in the previous round. But I also think they should have a lot of intel about what that setup looks like exactly. So on the rerun, I think there's also a good possibility they could potentially deal with it a lot quicker, because that was the problem, is they used so much utility and so much time trying to knock it out. They just didn't have the play potential coming into the late round. So now they're aware at least of what SSG are going to bring to the table for this defense and can hopefully deal with it a lot more quickly, if not just outright avoid it.
Yeah, and you can already see they've made some nice adjustments here. They're not bringing the Mav anymore to try and finagle with garages. That did not go very well the last time. They're on one hard destructor right now, and that's going to be the Thermite. That's a standard that we see, is he's got the fastest fuse time in the game, since obviously Ace isn't in just yet. So As for DarkZero now, looks like they want to handle Plat first, get that CCTV wall open, and then transition into other parts of the map. But where are they going to go this time? Is it going to be a transition over to construction, or are they going to try and attack Garage once again? As previously stated by Blue, it was not very successful, but mainly because of that wall. They could probably try to handle it straight up, but you have to worry about that man inside of rafters and the amount of utility that is placed up there.
All 3 of the EMP grenades going to be utilized here. And oh my goodness, it's a rush from DarkZero. They just want to end it right here, right now. And they may very well get their wish. 2, 3, 4. It's a team kill as well. Everything's down to Canadian now in the 1v4 scenario. Sneaks off 1. Bring it down to a 1v3. He's going to try to look for another. He's got to be careful of his back here, too. Another player could quickly run down the red and end his life if they time it right. The plant only just now going down, so he has plenty of time to try it, but it's not going to matter as DarkZero take it on round number 11, finally shutting down the map 7-4 and sending us to Cafe to decide the series.
They say rushes never work, but apparently they do, as DarkZero